Okay, this is my continuing coverage of the healthcare law. We're going to be dealing with Section 1313, which is called financial integrity. Okay, and we are still on the bottom of page number 66, but we will be proceeding to page number 67 very shortly. Accounting for expenditures. In general, an exchange shall keep an accurate accounting of all activities, receipts, and expenditures, and shall annually submit to the Secretary a report concerning all such accountings. In other words, let's say that the state exchange, let's say the Illinois State Exchange buys a whole bunch of staplers for its employees. They have to give a report at the end of the year to the Secretary of Health and Human Services that says that they bought all these staplers. Okay. Investigation. The Secretary, in coordination with the Inspector General of the Department of Health and Human Services, may investigate the affairs of an exchange, may examine the properties and records of an exchange, and may require periodic reports in relation to activities undertaken by the exchange. An exchange shall fully cooperate in any investigation conducted under the paragraph. In other words, somebody from the Secretary of Health and Human Services could show up at a state exchange at any time and say, hey, look, I want to check through all your records to see what you guys have been doing. How many people you've been enrolling, what health plans you're enrolling them in, what health plans you're offering, what equipment you're using, what computers you're using to enroll people, what paperwork you're filling out, how are you filling it out, so on and so forth. They can do that at any time. Audits. An exchange shall be subject to annual audits by the Secretary. Basically, every year they have to give an accounting of who they've enrolled, what plans they enrolled them in, what equipment they used, so on and so forth. Okay? Pattern of abuse. If the Secretary determines that the exchange or a state has engaged in serious misconduct with respect to compliance with the requirements of or carrying out the activities required under this title, the Secretary may rescind from payments otherwise due to such state involved under this or any other act administered by the Secretary an amount not to exceed 1% of such payments per year until corrective actions are taken by the state that are determined to be adequate by the Secretary. So in other words, if the state exchange, say the Illinois State Exchange, decides not to be compliant with what the federal government says, well, the federal government can stand there and say, hey, look, we're just not paying you until you get your act together. Okay. Protections against fraud and abuse. With respect to activities carried out under this title, the Secretary shall provide for the efficient and non-discriminatory administration of exchange activities and implement any measure or procedures that the Secretary determines is appropriate to reduce fraud and abuse in the administration of this title. So in other words, they can't sit there at the state exchange and quote you one price, and then later on when you're starting to pay your health insurance you find out you're paying more than what you were quoted originally. They can't do that. The Secretary has authority to implement under this title or any other act application of the False Claims Act. In general, payments made by, through, or in connection with an exchange are subject to the False Claims Act, if those payments include any federal funds. Compliance with the requirement of this act concerning eligibility for a health insurance issuer to participate in the exchange shall be material condition of an issuer's entitlement to receive payments, including payments of premium tax credits and cost-sharing reductions through the exchange. So in other words, if the individual that's insured is supposed to receive some kind of payment from the exchange or from some health insurance, he better get it. Or otherwise, the Secretary of Health and Human Services will start investigating, and nobody wants that. Damages, notwithstanding paragraph 1 of section 3729 of Title 31 United States Code, and subject to paragraph 2 of such section, the civil penalty assessed under the False Claims Act on any person found liable under this act, as described in subparagraph A, should not be increased by now. Okay. Whew. Yeah, this. So, basically it comes down to this. If the exchange is supposed to make a payment to an individual, they better do so. If an individual stands there and says, hey, look, you owe me this amount of money, and if the exchange finds out later that they don't, then that individual's in trouble. So they cover all the bases on this one. All right. Well, I think that's enough for a cold December day to cover. I'm hoping that I'll cover some more of this after Christmas, and hopefully we'll get some more covered before the end of the new year. All right, I will tell you more in a future video, so stay tuned.